Anyway, let's talk about what is happening in the Supreme Court, because the Supreme Court is currently taking up the legal battle over birthright citizenship.
On Wednesday, the Supreme
And this is something that Trump is trying to get rid of. He's trying to appease his rabid right-wing base by ending birthright citizenship, which has been a principle in the United States since it was founded. It gives children the right to citizenship who are born in the United States, no matter where their parents are from, no matter their parents' immigration status or their citizenship status. And this has been an ongoing battle because the Trump administration has been trying to end it. And so now it's finally gone all the way up to the Supreme Court. And they are hearing arguments today.
Supreme Court will hear oral arguments in the case surrounding birthright citizenship. You'll remember on President's first day back in the White House, he took 46 major presidential actions, including signing executive orders, memorandums, and proclamations. The 25th action he took was signing an order meant to end birthright citizenship for people born in America with parents either in the country illegally or on a temporary visa. The order was challenged and paused, awaiting a Supreme Court ruling. CBS News legal contributor and Loyola Law School professor Jessica Levinson joins me now. So what part of the Constitution are we talking about?
We're talking about the 14th Amendment. We're talking about the Citizenship Clause. And even more specifically, we're talking about a phrase subject to the jurisdiction of. And everything is going to come down to what that particular phrase actually means. And what we're talking about here, and there we have it on the screen, is our understanding of the 14th Amendment has been that if you're born in this country, you, in fact, are a citizen, regardless of the legal status of your parents, with really one carve-out. And the carve-out is for the children of foreign diplomats. The question is whether our understanding the 14th Amendment and Supreme Court case law that goes back all the way to 1898 is, in fact, wrong, and that you don't automatically get citizenship just by virtue of being born in this country.
Is there precedent, or is this the first time that we are talking about this at this level?
Well, this is such a great question, because I think what those challenging the
Genuine question, because I've seen conflicting statements on it. Would this also apply to children with one parent who's a citizen and one who's not? I'd imagine no, because the one who's a citizen, but these people are rabid. I mean, based on the current executive order that's been proposed, it would not apply as long as one parent is a U.S. citizen. Then their child would be provided citizenship. But you're right. You're right. I mean, it is sure right now, but if they were to succeed in this, what's the next step? But yeah, I mean, per the current executive order and legislative proposals, this would not apply if you have a parent who's a citizen.
Executive order would say there is precedent, and in fact, it goes back to 1898, and there the case said it doesn't matter what the status of your parents are. If you're born here under the Citizenship Clause that we just saw on the screen, you are a citizen. I think what the Trump administration will say is, be that as it may, that case didn't actually deal with parents who didn't have legal status. They just weren't U.S. citizens. And so I think what the Trump administration will try and do is distinguish that very old case. I'm going to go out on a limb, and I rarely do this when it comes to Supreme Court cases, and say, I think the Trump administration absolutely has an uphill battle here. When we think about, you just asked me about the Citizenship Clause, you asked me about the precedent. I think an originalist perspective for this particular issue indicates that you cannot executive order your way out of the Constitution.
But I have a question, because, okay, so in 1898, clearly illegal immigration was not the issue and the political fireball that it is today. And so are the lawyers or the justices going to have to try and get in the minds of the founding fathers who wrote the Constitution and wrote the 14th Amendment? Did they intend to include people who were born? You were talking about it was really intended for people who were born to foreign diplomats, or is that not even part of the question that they're going to be talking about?
Another great question. So I think what we're going to do is go back to the 14th Amendment. We know this
is she right wing? I mean, it's CBS.
It's a post-Civil War era amendment. And think about what the Birthright Citizenship Clause was designed to do. And it was designed to say that if you were formerly a slave, if you're the descendants of people who are formerly slaves, that does not matter. You are a citizen of this country. And in fact, I think there's an original understanding around the 14th Amendment to indicate that there was, in fact, illegal immigration in the sense that people were illegally taken from Africa, brought to this country. And the 14th Amendment made clear that if their children were born on U.S. soil, their status would not strip them of citizenship or would not mean that they weren't citizens. So I hope I'm answering your question by saying, yes, I think there's absolutely, as you said, a lot to look to in terms of when the 14th Amendment was written and ratified, where we were as a country just after the Civil War, why this is a Reconstruction Amendment. And given all of that, reading what those words meant in that historical context.
You know what I love about you, even when I ask you a stupid question.
Okay, so basically, the Trump administration's argument rests on the 14th Amendment's inclusion of the phrase subject to the jurisdiction thereof. So they're saying, whoa, this actually excludes children of people who are in the country unlawfully or temporarily, because this executive order would extend beyond, obviously, beyond people whose parents, children whose parents are undocumented. This would have even further reaching effects where this would then affect the children of parents who are here on like a green card, for instance. Let's watch Democracy Now! Is on it. But beep, 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 beep.
You attorney. We begin today's show looking at one of the biggest Supreme Court cases of the year.
And Trump has said that this would apply to those who are born within the United States after 30 days from the date of this order. So basically Trump and his allies, who are obviously trying to push this through, are trying to make people feel more at ease by saying, don't worry, this is not going to totally upend our country. This is not going to send a lot of parents into a total state of chaos, because we're just going to enact this to those who are born 30 days from the date of this order. No, I mean, this is on its face and fundamentally inhumane and also un-American, even though so many things when we say it's un-American, it's actually very like America being on point. But the whole concept of America and this principle, which is a cornerstone of United States law and of families in this country.
Wednesday, justices will hear arguments on the
Ellie is one of the best at covering Supreme Court. Here's his live thread coverage of arguments this morning. All right. Live whatevering of Trump versus Barbara, the birthright citizenship case. Arguing for the bad guys is U.S. Solicitor General John. Voice is an immutable characteristic, so let's show some respect. Sour. For the plaintiffs, it's ACLU legal director Cecilia Wang. Thomas asking if how Trump's position deals with Dred Scott focusing specifically on whether we'd be back to a situation where state citizenship is different per state. This question could go either way, but that Thomas is starting with something that could go either way, I'm taking as a good sign. Roberts describes Trump's focus on the word subject to the jurisdiction thereof as quirky. Again, good sign. Roberts doesn't immediately hop on the crazy train. My friend just said, shorter Sotomayor. Daniel Webster called you a fucking idiot. Thoughts? That's the best description available for what's happening here. Alito is now talking about microwave ovens. Hopefully later he'll cut. I don't know what this is. Sorry, legal analysis is, I have no idea what Alito is talking about, but it's probably evil in some way I haven't thought of yet. Sauer getting into the core of his argument with Kagan, that's the thing that attaches citizenship for children is domicile for the parents. And Kagan rightly says, where does this come from? She's pointing out that Sauer is totally off from the text of the 14th Amendment. Kagan says you're using some pretty obscure sources to get to this. Obscure sources is apparently Kagan's euphemism for fucking openly racist sources who were devout white supremacists. Gorsuch says, do we look at how domicile was understood in 1868 or how it's understood in the INA, Immigration and Naturalization Act? Gorsuch seems to be arguing it has to be the INA. And if he stays on that point, we have Gorsuch. Gorsuch, it's like Roman law. You're going to scene for Gorsuch. The law starts with Magna Carta, not the Corpus Juris Civilis. This is important, folks. Gorsuch is beating Sauer up. We have Gorsuch. If Roberts is also off the crazy train, we're almost done here. Amy Coney Barrett asking an extremely relevant question. Sauer and Trump's point is that birthright citizenship only counts for parents who have allegiance to the U.S. ACB points out that captured slaves had no allegiance to the U.S. and arguably wanted to escape, but their children were citizens. No. They liked being slaves. Don't get it twisted. She's talking about people illegally trafficked here, which obviously blows up the whole allegiance argument. We have ACB. Sauer just had to say that slaves had an intent to remain in the U.S. Roberts, again, you mentioned in your briefing about, yes, the intent to remain. No. They definitely wanted to be here. Roberts, again, you mentioned in your briefing about birth tourism. Do you have any information about how common that is, how much of a problem that is? Sauer, media reports from China. Roberts, having said all that, you do agree there's no impasse on the legal analysis. I think we have Roberts. It's a new world, same constitution. That's John Roberts off the crazy train. And then there is evil Clarence Thomas. He asks how much any of the debate about the 14th Amendment has to do with immigration. His point here is going to be that the 14th Amendment only applied to freed slaves and nobody else. That's what MAGA wants him to say, and he seems inclined to say it. Oh my God, he's so evil. We're already on round 2 of questions, and Brett hasn't spoken yet. Somebody get that man an Alka-Seltzer and a bump so he can tell us how he's going to vote. Question for people who speak Republican. What the fuck is a drive-by jurisdictional ruling? Seriously, Sauer just said it, and I have no idea what he could be talking about. Okay, so Kavanaugh finally asked a question, asked about the difference in the text between the 14th Amendment and the Civil Rights Act. One might have expected Congress to use a different phrase if they wanted to disagree with Wong Kim Ark. I think we have Cav. If Trump is actually there and awake, my official analysis 57 minutes in is that the justices do not care. I've heard nothing that indicates the justices have taken one iota of notice that the glaring baby man is in the courtroom. The Republicans keep saying that birthright is not the norm, but it is the norm in the new world. It's not the norm in Luxembourg. Okay, wait, let me skip to the end here. Alito is now bringing up Iranians. Okay, one thing to remember about ACB, she has adopted kids that she sure shit wants to be U.S. citizens. She knows damn well that if they can come for birthright, they can come for naturalized as well. Okay, so it's based on Eli Belly Mistel's live tweeting. It doesn't seem so far that good for Team Trump.
The constitutionality of President Trump's move.
Trump isn't even there anymore. That's not surprising to me. Okay, that man has bigger problems to deal with, namely his insane actions in Iran, the growing fury of his European allies, the freak out that is currently over the skyrocketing price of oil. It's been a bad week for Trump, and he's been crashing out on Truth Social. He has been so he's been so back and forth. First he's like, we've won the war, and then he's like, we've almost won the war, and then he's like, I'm going to get the Strait of Hormuz open. And then he's like, my allies, the European allies who want that oil, you need to do it yourselves. And then he's also got to go play golf. Yeah, it is tea time. It is tea time.
Move to end birth.
Hot dog diet. Thank you for the 6 months. I've been so busy with kids, I haven't been able to tune into an evening stream in too long. Thank you for doing these candidate interviews. Welcome. Happy to have you. Happy to have you when you're not focused on caring for little tiny human beings. Sarah Lynn, thank you for the 4 months.
Birthright Citizenship. On his first day back in office, Trump signed an executive order declaring children born to parents without permanent legal status would no longer be granted citizenship automatically. Last July, a federal appeals court in California ruled Trump's executive order, quote, contradicts the plain language of the 14th Amendment's grant of citizenship to all persons born in the United States and subject to the jurisdiction thereof, unquote. On Wednesday, ACLU attorney Cecilia Wang will appear before the judge.
What I will say is, even if this is tossed out, if the Supreme Court justices, and right now it seems as if they are not inclined to allow this executive order to strip citizenship from children born to parents who are not citizens or lawful permanent residents, I think this is over and over a precedent that's being set that is fully revealing of how barbaric and inhumane the government in this country is willing to go. And I think with Trump having 2 more years left on the resume here, whoever is set to be his predecessor is not going to flip to the other side on the issue of immigration. And so I think it's the full stark cruelty on display, successor. I'm tired. Yeah, his success, whoever his successor is going to continue with like the most extreme, cruel versions of what Trump has been doing here. So it's the precedent being set and upheld, and that is something that we're seeing every single day. It's like whether it's towards immigrants or trans people or Palestinians, the absolute barbarity with which these groups are being treated, and the number of laws and orders and bills that are popping up that are so unbelievably fascist. And the frustration is knowing that if we don't have a true opposition candidate, if we end up having someone like Gavin Newsom shoved down our throats, Gavin Newsom is not going to have the opposing position here. We've already seen how Democrats leaned into right-wing rhetoric and fascist policies around immigration. So the way to fight back this complete and total wildfire is not with more gas. They give the people lesser evil voting and wonder why Republicans keep winning. It's like, look, Republicans are more and more deranged and right-wing on the issue of the border and on immigrants. And the way to counter is not to try and do a version of that.
Justices to argue against ending birthright citizenship. Wang has described herself as a birthright citizen, born in the United States to parents who emigrated from Taiwan.
I'm a second-generation American myself, so I understand the stakes for so many immigrants who are contributing to American communities and working hard to achieve U.S. citizenship, and who've believed in the Constitution's solemn promise of birthright citizenship. This is—
Oh my God, did you guys see this fucking crazy story? They have ICE stationed outside of Marine Corps graduation events, and there was one recent graduate whose father, I think, one of their parents who came to their graduation was deported. It's like, oh, the reward for signing up to serve your country that they have been trying to promote as the duty of every young American man and woman. The reward for that, if your parents are undocumented, is that they will be deported. It's so evil. It's so fucking evil. ICE stations will be stationed outside graduation events for the nation's newest Marines to identify whether any of their family members are undocumented. As the U.S. continues the war in Iran, the Marine Corps has boosted protection measures on bases, requiring everyone to present real IDs, U.S. passports, or U.S. birth certificates to access any sites. Undocumented immigrants are generally ineligible for federal real IDs and don't have U.S. passports or birth certificates. So people without identifying documents who arrive at the gate of Marine Corps Recruit Depot at Parris Island in Beaufort, South Carolina for recruit family days and graduation events this week may now have to answer to ICE. Because of increased force protection measures at the Recruit Depot, federal law enforcement personnel will be present at installation access points to conduct enhanced screening and lawful immigration status inquiries during recruit, family, and graduation days. Just remember, if you are signing up to join the military, to join the Marine Corps, that is not going to afford you state protection. They will still come after you and your family, and there is no semblance of patriotism that you can exhibit here as a person whose family is currently in a precarious situation due to legal status. While sometimes family members don't have proper documentation, it wasn't clear why ICE had decided to station at Parris Island. A DHS spokesperson said any suggestion that ICE would make arrests was false. ICE will not be making arrests at the basic training graduation Parris Island. They literally deported somebody's parent. Let me see if I can find Marine graduate parent. Yeah, then why the fuck are they there? Esteban Rios, the father of a U.S. Marine. They've already done this. This family's visit to a military base ended with ICE deporting a Marine's dad. Did I miss Oliver Larkin? Nope, that is happening at 10 o'clock. So in like 45 minutes. Parents of a U.S. Marine were detained by federal immigration officials, and one of them was later deported after visiting members at a California military base. Steve Rios, a Marine from Oceanside, California, said that his parents, Esteban Rios and Luisa Rodriguez, were taken into custody late last month while picking up his pregnant sister and her husband, who's also a Marine, at Camp Pendleton. The couple, who came to the United States from Mexico 3 decades ago and had pending green card applications, were stopped by immigration agents and later released with ankle monitors. At a later check-in with federal immigration officials, they were detained and taken into custody. Esteban Rios had been wearing a hat and a shirt that read "Proud Dad of a U.S. Marine" and was deported on Friday. He said, "Yeah, this is my lucky shirt, so we'll be fine." Rios recalled his father saying, Marine Corps recruiters have long promoted enlistment as a path to stability for families without legal immigration status. But experts say those assurances have eroded as federal authorities have moved to enforce existing laws more strictly. Yeah, they're going after the rapists and murderers, the criminals that are coming over the border, entering into the United States to commit their crimes by targeting family members of Marines. If that ain't an indicator of how full of shit this administration is on their policies regarding immigrants and immigration, of who they're really targeting. The Marine Corps previously told the AP that recruiters have been informed they are not the proper authority to imply that the Marine Corps can secure immigration relief for applicants or their families. They're like, well, it's your fault that y'all have been saying that, you know? Yes. Okay. So that's happening. ICE agents are stationed really everywhere in this country. That is a complete and total fucking waste of the billions of dollars that agency has.
It's more than a legal case. This
Jack,
is a fight
for
what it means to be
Bear,
American,
thank you for the prime.
and we are fighting to win.
In 1898, the Supreme Court affirmed children born on U.S. soil are citizens regardless of their parents' immigration status. That case was brought by a Chinese American.
The Epstein class in charge doesn't give a fuck about you, chat. Always remember that. Yeah. They don't give a fuck about you. They make a lot of money not giving a fuck about you.
American man named Wong Kim Ark. He was born in the United States to parents who were Chinese citizens. Wong Kim Ark's great-grandson, Norman Wong, plans to speak outside the Supreme Court Wednesday. He recently spoke to Reuters from his home in California about his grandfather.
When he came back in 1895, he was stopped from entering the United States and forced to remain on the boat. The collector of customs decided that the 1882 Chinese Exclusion Act was enforced, and he didn't recognize Wong Kim Ark's birthright citizenship, even though Wong Kim Ark, when he left, had testimonies that he was an American citizen. You know, he always had his paperwork because by 1882 he knew the rules.
We're joined now by Cody Wafsi, Deputy Director of the ACLU Immigrants' Rights Project. He served as the lead attorney on the Birthright Citizenship case in lower courts. Welcome to Democracy Now!, Cody. Talk about the significance of...
I saw a story recently of a delivery driver deported because they accidentally turned into a base gateway. My God.
Of this case, what the Trump administration has done, where this birthright citizenship amendment came from, and what the ACLU will argue on Wednesday.
Yeah, thanks so much for having me. Birthright citizenship is an absolutely foundational American value. And as you said, it is written into our Constitution. It's actually a rule and an idea that goes all the way back to the beginning of the country and beyond, back to England. But it is a rule that was severely attacked and undermined in the shameful Dred Scott decision, which before the Civil War concluded that Black Americans, whether enslaved or free, could never be citizens of the United States. That articulated an idea of citizenship.
Trump went to listen for an hour, then left. Yeah, he's like, I can't miss my tea time.
Based on division and exclusion. And it was a big part of what led to the Civil War itself. After the war, Congress sat down and knew it needed to fix that problem. And so what it came up with is the Citizenship Clause, which is very clear that all children born in this country are U.S. citizens, except for some unusual circumstances, like the children of ambassadors.
Honestly, this current administration is the anti-children party, is the anti-families party. That's the kind of thing that if you're a Democrat and you are supposedly the opposition to this current administration, I think you should really emphasize that. This is the anti-life party. Yes, the anti-life party, the forced birth and anti-life party, where they are passing policies that completely erode people's autonomy and people's rights, and that includes going after children. The total disregard for children's lives that's on display, whether it is bombing kids, kidnapping children, trying to push forth executive orders that would leave children stateless, that they would have no citizenship at all, because a lot of families who flee persecution in their home countries would not want to register their child with their home country's government due to the dangers of that, and just the constant war on kids, on babies. Kids only matter while they're in the womb. But then again, it's like certain kids matter.
Who are not subject to U.S. law. That has been
the
they're
rule. So concerned about declining birth rates. I wonder why they don't want more children here. It can't be because because they're brown.
Ever since
they're like, well, not those kinds of
Supreme
kids.
Court in 1898, and it remains the rule today. But the Trump administration has taken aim at that principle and is seeking to strip citizenship away from U.S.-born children. That is deeply illegal, unconstitutional, and morally wrong. And that's exactly why we'll be fighting them over this in the Supreme Court.
And Cody, could you talk about the plaintiffs in this particular case, in this the Trump versus Barbara?
Sure, I'm happy to. So this case is actually a class action, meaning our clients are all of the children who are targeted by this executive order. We're talking about tens of thousands of babies being born every month to parents who are in different circumstances. Some of them are here on long-term work visas or student visas, maybe like a PhD candidate.
Yeah, you know what this is doing? This is causing pregnant women to feel anxious about going to the hospital to give birth, which then could lend itself to a precarious, dangerous situation where women are giving birth in secret. Families who are in the prime having babies, time of their lives, and are rethinking their plans to have kids. If more and more of the whether it's executive orders and bills that actually go through, or it's the threat of it, it's very hostile. It's very hostile to having children, raising children in this country.
Others are here in long-term statuses like DACA recipients or temporary protected status. Some of those folks have been here since they were children. Others are long-term residents who may not have any current immigration status, but have spent years, decades building lives here, contributing to their communities. Others are seeking protection in this country, asylum and other forms of protection from harms around the world. So it's a wide range of contexts. There are three families who are what we call named plaintiffs. They are, brave families that are standing up to sort of be representatives of that entire class of folks, and they fall into some of those categories. They have different immigration statuses, but what brings them all together is the Trump administration is targeting them and their babies at this particularly vulnerable and stressful moment. You have either pregnant women or young babies that you're taking care of, and you have to be worried about, is the administration going to strip my child's constitutionally guaranteed citizenship away?
And how many people are we talking about now that would be affected since Trump issued his executive order?
Yeah, so the estimates are somewhere in the range of 150 to 250,000 a year, and projecting out, the estimates have been that this would impact roughly 5 million U.S. born children in the next 20 years.
Sherrilyn Ifill, the director of the 14th Amendment Center at Howard University, wrote last year, quote, "Today we're facing the greatest hostility to the 14th Amendment since the post-Reconstruction period. Indeed, we're..."
God, I'm really tired of living through unprecedented times. These unprecedented times that are becoming precedented with how frequently unprecedented acts are occurring.
Now in a period of full-blown hostility to the project of multiracial democracy. She went on to say, everyone should be on full alert. The 14th Amendment protects the citizenship and equality rights of every American. Nothing says cancellation quite like threats to your citizenship
status. The aliens are coming,
at
finally!
the whim of the president simply because he doesn't want you here.
Thank God.
Can you elaborate on that, Cody?
Yeah, absolutely. So there's two things I think to pull out from that.
The aliens are coming to save democracy.
Important observation. The first is historical, which is that's exactly right. There has been resistance to the 14th Amendment, to the ideas of equality and equal citizenship enshrined in the Constitution after the Civil War as part of atoning for the sin of slavery. Ever since then, in particular in the years after the 14th Amendment was ratified, there were those who adamantly opposed it, including former Confederates. And interestingly, a number of those former Confederates or opponents, their views were offered up to the Supreme Court in Wong Kim Ark, and they were rejected in Wong Kim Ark. What we see today is the Trump administration, shockingly, recycling those same writers, those same sources that were grounded in opposition to the 14th Amendment and essentially opposition to the idea of an equal society without caste, without division.
Everything's such a fucking joke because it's April Fool's.
I think that the second thing about this is that it is important to kind of understand where this policy fits in the broader landscape of the Trump administration's agenda. This is a rule about citizenship and stealing the citizenship from U.S. citizen children, but it is...
So here's my opinion on these facts, honestly. Trump is doing something that he's thinking is going to help alleviate immigrant stuff. Wrong. But our biggest issue is because of one man, and that was Joe Biden opening our borders, and now we have to deal with all the children. Also wrong. I mean, I have my issues with Joe Biden's policies on the border, but because of how much he walked back his promises to make legal migration easier, to like not be criminalizing people who are seeking asylum. Now we have to deal with all the children being born of those men and women that migrate into U.S. with no documentation. What are you talking about, brother? This is not something new, first of all. Second of all, you really think that Donald Trump is trying to quote unquote alleviate immigrant stuff? Why do you think it's a positive thing to make it more difficult for people to pursue a legal pathway? And what I need you to understand as well is that the United States government is responsible for a lot of the root causes of migration. Okay? People who come to this country, funny enough, due to the policies of the U.S. government in their home countries.
Is part of a broader effort to attack immigrant communities, mixed status.
get essentially attaining a legal status these days is akin to winning the lottery. They have made it nearly impossible. Alleviate implies there's a problem. Name a single reason why immigration is a problem. Name a single true reason that is not rooted in complete and total fear-mongering and lies. What, committing crimes? It's false. It's false. This is all disinformation that is whipped up and used by both political parties in this country because it's proven to be electorally key.
Families and try and reshape the demographics of this country. Stephen Miller and others in the administration.
It's like, okay, the government will slash Medicaid and then blame immigrants and say that immigrants are getting health care. That immigrants have been getting thousands of dollars from the government and not you, a hardworking American citizen.
Are adamant that they want to turn
all
the clock
false.
back
It's all
to a time when
fear-mongering.
this country was less
It's
free,
all to whip up
was
people's
less equal, and more than anything else was more white. And that's what this
people's
case
emotions.
is ultimately about. And that is simply not the rule that's enshrined in the Constitution.
Yeah,
And
nobody
Cody,
gets
you've
fucking
argued
health care in this
case
country.
In the lower courts, why did every lower court reject the administration's theory that the children of non-citizens aren't, quote, subject to the jurisdiction of the U.S.?
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of reasons. I'll give you three. So one is it's completely contrary to the history. As I said, the rule that the children of immigrants, regardless of status, are U.S. citizens in this country goes all the way back to the beginning of the country and then gets enshrined specifically into the Constitution in 1868. Secondly, that's exactly what the Supreme Court said in 1898.
They should not be lobbied by Fortune 500 businesses. I agree. I don't think Congress people should be allowed to trade stocks because essentially it's just insider trading. I don't think that big money in politics should continue. I think that lobbying and the revolving door system in Washington is what has led to both parties in this country being completely corporately captured.
So we have on-point Supreme Court precedent interpreting the citizenship clause exactly along the lines of that history and exactly as we say it is meant to be understood. And third, there's actually an independent problem with the government's position and executive order in this case, which is that there was a statute enacted in 1940 that enshrined the same widespread, near universal understanding of birthright citizenship.
What if the father of the child had big lopsided balloon boobs? Well, then Fox News would be having a field day.
Prevailed then and prevails today into federal statutory law. That provides an alternative basis to strike down the executive order. And, you know, once again, is a reason why the government's arguments are flat wrong.
Last week, the ACLU launched a national ad campaign of what it means to be an American, featuring Bruce Springsteen's hit song, Born in the USA.
Oh, you mean Born in the USA? Also, this Born in the USA is not a MAGA song.
The Supreme Court will hear a case challenging birthright citizenship.
Also, even if MAGA wants to pretend that that's a song for them, Born in the USA, okay. These kids are born in the USA. What now? What now?
The 14th Amendment guarantees birthright citizenship.
When Bruce Springsteen performed at Democracy Now!'s 30th anniversary celebration last week, I asked him about partnering with the ACLU.
Now you just made news again this morning. The ACLU launching a national ad campaign featuring your Born in the USA, highlighting the landmark Birthright Citizenship Supreme Court case that they're going to be arguing on April 1st.
Amy rocking the hell out of that fedora.
All right, well, it's our pleasure to be working with the ACLU, and they finally put Born in the USA to some good and righteous use, so I'm glad about it.
They finally put Born in the USA to some good and righteous use. Cody Wofsy, your colleague, Cecilia Wong, is going to be arguing this before the Supreme Court. Herself a birthright citizen, the significance of this.
Yeah, I think that just the fact that we have a Chinese-American legal director of the ACLU standing up to defend the principle that Wong Kim Ark bravely stood up to establish 128 years ago just goes to show how much that decision and the 14th Amendment have shaped and made the America that we all live in today. Birthright citizenship is a cornerstone of who we are and of what America is all about. And that's exactly why I have every confidence that we are going to prevail in this case.
Cody, wow.
Yeah, and look, I think when people talk about wanting to fix this country, fix the problems in this country, they don't mean destroying the few things that are just and good. Eliminating birthright citizenship, is that really what people had in mind when they have called for laws and policies to make this country better? Is that really it? It's taking that from people. It's taking their ability to be citizens in the United States of America.